I'm Lawrence Macaray of Anaheim, California, and we're going into a trip, a study tour from Whittier College and Loyola College in California into the large cities of Western and Eastern Europe. Here we're in East Berlin. There's the Brandenburg Gate. This is the month of July, 1959, and this is the eastern part of Berlin. And you can still see the bombed out buildings that have not been repaired after World War II. There were some buildings that were repaired, but not a great many. But I wanted to show some of the still bombed out areas. This is along the Stalinstrasse, the main street in East Berlin, and I'm kind of hiding the camera underneath my sweater, and so some of the scenes may be a little cockeyed. I was trying to get shots of the people doing various everyday things, and Dr. Voss from the University of Copenhagen and I are over here in East Berlin trying to get some visas to get into Warsaw, and we're having a little bit of trouble. And it looks like our visas for the Soviet Union have been approved through the help of Vice President Nixon. Still some bombed out buildings everywhere you turn. This old camera is still working pretty well. But you can see that the streets are deserted pretty much. Here, I was waiting for Dr. Voss, and I was sitting on a street corner, and I was watching some of the workmen. Some of the workmen were digging up some of the old ruins. And here's one of the main corners in East Berlin. I noticed two policemen just passed me. I'm sitting on the curb. There I am. Dr. Voss is taking pictures of me there on the Stalinstrasse. And but on either side of Stalinstrasse, you see the buildings that are all bombed out, and it looks like kind of a movie studio with the bombed out buildings on the left and on the right side of the Stalinstrasse. But that main street is the part that they show the rest of the world. This is about the center of that Stalinstrasse, with some very nice shops and apartments over the shops, and lots of people walking back and forth and shopping. There wasn't a great deal to buy in the shops, but nevertheless, the people were out walking around, and here's one of the streetcars in East Berlin, very old. Yeah. Now we're in going into Warsaw, and there I noticed that there were little monuments all around the city with flowers to some of the people that had been killed there. These are some of the churches, some buildings, and this is one of the monuments to the Russian occupation. Very, very huge Russian-type building that dominates the city. And I met Tomasz Stoniakierowicz, one of the teachers who teaches art at the university at the Warsaw School of Fine Arts. And so we went out together looking around and showing me the different sites in Warsaw. And again, was trying to get some of the looks of the people, average person, walking along the streets and queuing up for the streetcars. Very few cars on the street, lots of trolley cars, lots of bicycles, a few trucks, people gathered around just to look at some of the shoes and clothing and things that they would like to buy. Everything was very, very high priced, and there weren't a lot of things available for them to buy. Here people were queuing up to get some kind of ice cream. Lots of people working in the streets, women sweeping the streets, men taking care. And there's the rebuilding of one of the houses, one of the buildings. Warsaw, of course, was completely destroyed by the Germans during the war. And they're rebuilding the city, and the exterior with the same architectural design as they formerly used, but the insides of the buildings, of course, were new and had new appliances and things like that. Now, this is a parade. You're going to see Khrushchev and Gromulka, who's the head of Poland, are coming by in a parade, and the workers are all given a day off in order to swell the ranks of the people along the lines. My friend Tomasz was pushing me out here in front of the police, telling them here was an American with a camera, and there's Khrushchev in the white hat, and Gromulka right beside him. And it wasn't much of a parade, and it dispersed quite quickly. And I grabbed a few Polish and Russian flags that were thrown on the ground, and then Tomasz and I ran to the President's Palace, and this is the President's Palace, hoping that we could get some pictures of Khrushchev close up, but we couldn't. Here one of the police was inspecting some man's camera that he had, and here's the American Embassy in Warsaw. Now we're on our way to Moscow by train, and this is a view of the Kremlin from across the Moscow River. And another part of the Kremlin. The barges going up and down the Moscow River. Quite a few cars and a few buses and trucks. More than I really expected. And there's another view of one of the large buildings in the Kremlin. These are old churches that used to be churches with the onion-shaped towers, and now they're museums inside the Kremlin. This is the soccer stadium, or the sports stadium outside of Moscow, and we're now overlooking the Moscow River, and I'm kind of panning from left to right, showing parts of the city, and there's the stadium. And bridges crossing the river. Here's Moscow University. There are 22 American exchange students going to school there. Here's a shot of lots and lots of apartment buildings that were built on the way out of Moscow. And this is outside my hotel window, and you can see a typical architecture there in the distance that was in Warsaw. These are rooftops as seen from, this is the Moscow Hotel where we stayed. A very fine old hotel. Here's the Bolshoi Ballet Theater, which was only a stone's throw from the hotel. And there were no performances while we were there as the troupe was on tour somewhere. This is a park right outside the Bolshoi, and Now we're in Red Square in some of the shops that are along Red Square there. And people going into all different kinds of shops, buying all different things. Not a great deal was available. Very few Western goods were available. But you see there's so many people walking that they have to walk in the street, actually. So many people taking up the space on the sidewalk. There were lots of children out with the parents, and there were little stands with toys, and there were balloons and so forth. Here we're inside the GUM, the State Department Store, and I'm up on the second floor looking down, and you can see there's all kinds of shops inside of the GUM. It's one of the world's largest department stores, and very impressive. And you'll see a great many things on sale here. That's the ceiling of the GUM. It's two-storied with this huge skylight. There's St. Basils Basilica there in Red Square from in front of my hotel. We were right on practically on Red Square. You see the multitudes of people just out walking, trying to beat the traffic. Although there weren't too many cars, especially around Red Square. There's a few there you can see going back and forth Red Square. St. Basil's silhouetted against the skyline. And there's part of the Kremlin wall. And there's a line of people, blocks and blocks long, going to visit Lenin's and Stalin's tomb that is right here in front of the Kremlin. It's a dark brown low marble building, and Lenin is there, and under glass, and Stalin as well. Here, my friend Johnny De Gregorio was taking a picture of me. I was asking this lady in the street some kind of directions, and she didn't understand what I was saying. But nevertheless, Johnny missed my head, but he got the rest of me. Like those baggy pants that I traded in Moscow. Here's some more shots of the people walking along the street. You can see some of the cars and motorcycles and bicycles, and not a lot going on. So you have to just get out and walk and enjoy the parks and so forth. Here our group is, there's Dr. O'Brien there, leading our group. We're going to church on a Sunday morning. They didn't want us to go, the Komsomo who had charge of us didn't want us to go to church, but we kept it up, and they finally let us go. And our group, part of our group, went to this Baptist church in Moscow. And I took the camera inside with me, and I sat up in the choir, and you can see the light is not good. When I went outside, I turned the camera on some of the people standing outside. As I remember, the services were very, very long. Now we're outside at the sports stadium, and there's going to be a soccer game between, there's Lenin, called Lenin Stadium actually, and it holds over 100,000 people. Kind of reminded me of the Coliseum in Los Angeles. And you'll notice that it's 15 to 6 p.m. and it's very light out. The place is filled with people, and there's part of our group right there. We bought these Russian hats and so forth, and you couldn't tell us apart from the Russians, of course. And this was a soccer game between Hungary and the Soviet Union, USSR. And here the players are coming out, the Soviet Union won the match 2-0, beating Hungary. I tried to take some shots of people in the stadium. Here's a shot of women in Red Square painting some lines on the bricks, and you'll know there's Lenin's tomb in the background, you see, and the people still queuing up. Here's a good shot of that's the History Museum, that red big building on the left, and these women are painting. This is a good shot of the changing of the guard coming out of one of the entrances to the Kremlin, and the guards are marching, 2 guards with I suppose a sergeant, marching to the tomb, and then changing the guard, 2 of them, and then coming back. I was handling 3 cameras at the time, and so I didn't get the full length of here they come back. They've just changed the guard, and I was hoping nobody would be bothered by taking all these pictures, as we were warned not to take pictures of the military and the police and trains and bridges. But nevertheless, I still had my sweater over my camera. This is a big statue in Red Square that they were rebuilding or refinishing. Or there's a shot of an artist I met in Red Square, and he's painting the St. Basils Basilica. And here's another monument inside of Red Square. People were... This is a historical monument that's left there in Red Square. Had something to do with the revolution. There's our hotel, that light building in the center, that tall building. That's the GUM on the right-hand side and the History Museum on the left. We're at the train station in Moscow, going down to the Ukraine, Kiev in particular, and it was quite a long ride, and they had statues, sports statues, all around the station, which were kind of interesting. And the train ride was kind of dirty. It was a coal-driven train, and so we stuck our heads out the window. So of course we got very dirty. And we landed in Kiev, and there's the Dnieper River, and that's Saint Vladimir, the patron saint of Kiev, and the Dnieper River is a very important lifeline in this part of the country. This is I'm way up on top of the hill looking down on the beach along the Dnieper. Long bridge called the People's Bridge. People walking over from Kiev over to the beach area. And this is the headquarters of the Komsomol there. That's the young Communist League that had charge of us there. These are, this was the monument to the unknown soldier that we saw there. other state buildings right in the center of Kiev. Again, trying to get some shots of the ordinary people walking around and doing what they normally would do. There's a taxi there waiting for someone. And again, a great many people walking along the streets. Lots of parks, and but not a great many amusements or places for people to go and enjoy themselves. And here we're out at the collective farm. It's a little ways out of Kiev, and it's a collective farm where they have their own school, their own hospital, and there were about 750 households there. And so we toured the collective farm, and they had about 600 cows, as I remember, and it was interesting to see the way that they lived, and most of these people had their own personal plots of ground as well. There's part of our group. There's Dr. O'Brien in the white shirt, and there were 37 of us actually on the study tour. But some very primitive ways of farming, and yet this Ukraine area is called the breadbasket of the Soviet Union, as they grow a great deal of wheat here. This shot here shows some of the American farmers who were there visiting from Kansas, looking over the facilities and the way that they do their farm work and so forth. And this is one of the, I've tried to get some close-up shots of some of these homes at the collective farm, and trying to get people to talk to or pose for me. But most of the roofs were thatched roofs, and people had their own little plots of ground as well. There's our bus waiting for us. And this was the kind of community center of the collective farm. Here, Johnny was taking some pictures of me. I'm trying to get somebody in there to pose for me, but I can't seem to communicate with anyone. I'm shooting into somebody's backyard. It looks like maybe these are kitchen workers of some kind. Here's an army truck that was coming by. And we went to Monastery, and we wanted to go through the catacombs there. We had a very difficult time getting permission to go through, but nevertheless, we managed. They wouldn't let us take any pictures outside, but I managed to take a few. And they're rebuilding this monastery that was destroyed partially destroyed during the war. That's one of these are people, pilgrims that had come many miles to the monastery, and they were out sitting around, mostly of course women, and had all their belongings with them and their food, and they were wanting to come in and go through the catacombs and see the saints that were entombed in the catacombs. This is one of the head priests that wouldn't let us go in at first, but I was standing behind a tree getting this shot. Here he comes back. I don't know what he's carrying, but nevertheless, Here's part of our group going into the catacombs, the entrance to the catacombs. Of course, very dark in there, and there were some candles, candlelight, so forth, but not enough to take any pictures. Here's some more of the pilgrims waiting on the outside, eating their lunches or whatever. But they seem to be there every day, pilgrims coming. Here we're on a boat going along the Dnieper River, and this is a favorite vacation place for the Russian people. And there was some boating and a great many people out on the beaches, of course. And see some bridges along the way, other ships with people, tourists of some kind. Probably mostly Russian tourists that had come down from Moscow and other places, as there weren't many foreign people there. Here's the beach area, the sands along the banks of the Dnieper. Somebody was washing clothes down there. Again, not a great many people out. It's a beautiful sunny day, but there weren't that many out on the beach. There was a man out there again, just a little, very little activity along the river. I noticed this train crossing the bridge, and so I took a shot of it. Just, again, here we had a kind of a summer camp along the Dnieper with a lot of the young people coming out, of course, this being July 1959. Here are some shots of people on the street, and these are shots now from the train as we're leaving Kiev, going toward the border. Not very good shots, but nevertheless, this is the border. We're going into Czechoslovakia, and you'll notice that as we pass the border, there's some there are two sets of fences, you'll notice, crossing over into Czechoslovakia. And then, of course, there's those watch stations along the way. Very difficult to cross the border for anyone. And that's the end.